How goes it, family? Welcome back to Patterson Properties. Hopefully, you guys are having a great and exceptional day. I came across this article today, and it definitely caught my attention, family. According to the article, nearly 50% of homes sold for more than their list price during the last 4 weeks, ending in May 16, 2021. But there are signs that housing market demand may be reaching its peak, according to a recent study that was actually done by Redfin. And if you haven't noticed within the last year, family, the housing market within the United States of America has been in turmoil, meaning that a very big lack of housing supply, and also with the surging house prices and surging bidding wars, all at the same time. The article also stated that pending home sales for the 7 day period ending in March 16th were down about 10% from 4 weeks prior, compared to an 8% increase during the same period in 2019. Mortgage purchase applications also decreased 4% week over week. At the end of the day, the real estate market is still one of the hottest moving industries in 2021 and beyond. But at this time, according to the article, there may be signs that some buyers would rather spend their money on restaurants, vacations, and other things that have held back so many people's lives for the past year because of the pandemic, instead of just putting money into housing right now. That threat of the pandemic is dissipating in the United States of America. So, deal with that, with that information as you may. I can attest to the fact that, because even myself, I have no intentions of moving from my current residence, even though that I get contacted on a regular basis. It seems like every day from somebody that wants to buy my house. And I'm a wholesaler too, so I get it. So it's not like it's not like it boils my blood or anything of that nature, because it just comes with the territory. So it's all good. The article also stated that new listings of homes for sales were down about 12% from the same period in 2019, and active listings, number of homes listed for sale at any point during the period, fell 49% from the sale period in 2019. This is happening, of course, with prices remaining astronomically high. Home prices were recently reported at a record high of $352,000 and were up 24% year over year. Asking prices increased to about $358,000, also a record high. Homes in May 2021 are also on the market for an average of only 17 days. Only 17 days. Even though one house that was actually a fix and flip in my area, in the DMV area, I guess because the home was older, but I've even went inside the open home showing and whatnot. House looks great, but because it's older and because it's smaller, I guess a lot of people, because the house has been on the market for over a month now, so it still surprises me with that. So it just depends on the property as well, because even if it's a single family property, if it doesn't look newer, if it doesn't have the open concept, for people that want to raise a family in it, then a lot of people are not going to purchase that property. It's just one way of looking at it. So if you are a homeowner and want to sell your property, the ball is definitely in your court, and you stand to make a good profit, especially if you're in a good housing market like Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, DC, Baltimore, New York, California, etc. Um, all these places that are blowing up, Nashville, Tennessee. Like I said, I could go on and on. But good luck if you're looking for a new home in today's market, because a lot of cash buyers are getting most of the single family homes, especially even a lot of corporations are buying single family homes. So you got a lot of competition out here when it comes to buying single family properties. The article also said that mortgage rates also spiked in the last week, jumping basic points to 3%, a possible detriment to would-be home buyers who were eyeballing the sub-negative 3% rates the country saw earlier this year. And during the peak months of the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of homes sold in April 2021 was up about 34% from a year earlier, but only 8% from the same time in 2019. The only metro area that saw home sales decline was Rochester, New York, at a negative 3%. The largest gains in sales were places that had the most abrupt slowdown of home sales in April 2020, including San Francisco, up 184%, San Jose up 150%, and Miami, Florida, up 120%. Now, median home prices increased from a year earlier in all the 85 largest metropolitan areas across the United States of America. The smallest increase was in Honolulu, Hawaii, where prices went up 0.2% from a year ago. And to be honest with you, Hawaii is like California, in the sense where most people can't afford to even live there. I mean, these are both states that have one thing in common: they're beautiful. They're by the ocean or surrounded by ocean, and they have a huge, huge homeless population, unfortunately. Not saying anything bad because I love California, but the reality is the reality. All right. The largest home price increases were in Austin, Texas, where a lot of people, especially Californians, have been moving to, and it's been up to about 42%. Oxnard, California is up 26%, and Miami, Florida, up 26%. And at the end of to end this video off, another thing to take into consideration is that one always has to include where people are moving to, and most working people cannot afford to live in most parts of California or even New York state unless they own properties without mortgages or living off of housing vouchers, things of that nature. And good luck with that, because even in those situations, even if you have them, a lot of places are not accepting them. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those it is what it is situations. But I will say this: that's why how owning real estate is very important, whether people want to there are people that say that they don't want to ever own real estate, and I get it, but a lot of times the people that say that they're ones that are good financially, because they're like a great example. Grant Cardone, real estate mogul, but he doesn't own the properties that he lives in. Think about that. Okay, he owns the investment properties that he makes money off of, but he doesn't own the properties that he lives in, because he likes to be able to move around whenever he wants to and not become so attached to one specific place. There's nothing wrong with that. In my personal opinion, when you get to that economic level that Grant Cardone is, then yeah, then you can have that statement and say, owning your own property is not for you. I get that. But for a lot of working people, they've missed out on a lot of generational wealth because they have not owned properties. The reason why a lot of my friends and family can live in California still to this day, and live in Connecticut, and live in New York, and live in New Jersey to this day, is because they kept this one crazy thing in their family known as real estate. And because they kept this crazy thing known as real estate in their family, they are able to either, even if they leave the states, they can and move, and if they move to a foreign country or they move down south for cheaper living, they can still utilize that property to make money off of it. That's the power of passing down generational wealth from a real estate perspective. There's other ways to do it as well, but that's a beautiful thing to do. And that's one of the best things. Even my friend told me the greatest thing about, like, his mother's she's moved to Arizona. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles and whatnot, but the house that he grew up in was the house that was actually his grandparents' house. And his grandparents passed it down to his mother passed it down to him, and he's planning on passing that house down to his children. And the beautiful thing about that is his grandparents bought that house for $60,000 or $70,000, okay, back in the '60s and '70s and whatnot. And the house now is worth almost $600,000 in 2021. Let me rewind that back for you one more time before I end this video off. My friend, who will remain nameless, family members bought a house in Los Angeles, California, back in the '60s, '70s timeframe for about up to $60,000. That same house, which has been maintained and which has been passed down from generation to generation, is worth almost $600,000. That is the power of real estate. And the beautiful thing about it is he does not have a mortgage on the house. He only pays property taxes. He takes home equity lines of credit. And guess what he does with it? He buys delinquent tax properties in other parts of the United States of America. He's retired himself at 40 years old from using that house that his grandparents and parents passed down to him. That's the power of generational wealth. That's the power of real estate. And that's why people preach it and talk it so much. Well, the real ones are they practicing what they preach. It's I'm practicing what I preach and whatnot. That is the beautiful power of real estate. And that's what I wanted to end this video off on that note. Okay. Regardless of what economy you're in, especially if you own real estate in any major city in the United States of America, even if it's in freaking Detroit. Okay. Even if it's in New Orleans, even if it's in a major city that nobody really, if there's not a big population of people trying to move to, people love the city life. So that's the really, at the end of the day, that's the point. I grew up in the DMV area. A lot of friends of mine whose parents or great grandparents or great grandparents that owned real estate in Washington D.C. bought it for quarters, and the smart ones kept it. And now you can't even barely find any real estate in DC for less than $500,000 to $600,000. Okay, the power of real estate is real, family. When are you going to get in the game, and then when are you going to pass down that generational wealth to people? Because a friend of mine is able to retire from his job now because of one, one, one house. That's all I got to say. All right. So do the great thing for your things, family. Like, share, and subscribe. If you're a crypto investor, don't forget to check out the Gold Standard Partners. All this information is in the description. Also, don't forget that Patterson Up Properties is all about wholesaling real estate and whatnot. We don't mind partnering up with other wholesalers. love to connect with investors, and we love to connect with people that might be in a distressed property situation. Majority of our business, though, does come from delinquent tax property. So definitely give us contact us. All this information is in the description. And as I always say on my other channel, make money move so you're going to live broke like a fool. Take care, family.